Justice Vipul Pancholi has been elevated as a judge of the Supreme Court. He was sworn in, and in order of seniority, he is due to become the Chief Justice of India in October of 2031. He'll have a term of about a year and a half. So why exactly is Justice Pancholi's name hitting the headlines? Why exactly is there a hint of controversy that these stories appear to be suggesting? Well, we'll try to go through them and address these issues one by one. The first issue is lack of representation of women judges. A lot of advocates, senior advocates, retired judges, commentators on social media have flagged how there are no women judges except one. Justice BV Nagaratna is the only woman judge in the Supreme Court. Why so? In fact, they're quick to point out that it was in August of 2021 that there were 3 women judges who had been elevated. Of the 3, 2 have retired, only one remains as Justice BV Nagaratna, which begs the question that Justice Pancholi was elevated despite him being 57th in seniority across the High Court judges. The question being asked is that there were 3 women judges who were more senior to him, but they were ignored for elevating Justice Pancholi. And then the question once again is raised that why are there no women judges? Why no recommendations for a woman judge since August of 2021? That's the first issue. The second issue is with representation of specific high courts. The question being asked, with Justice Pancholi's elevation to the Supreme Court, Gujarat High Court now has 3 judges being representing the Gujarat High Court in the apex court, in the top court of the country. The question being asked is that, is there a bias being shown in favor of a particular high court at the expense of others? The question being asked is that high courts like Gujarat have as many as 3 judges representing it, and there are various other high courts which don't even have a single judge representing them in the Supreme Court. That's the second issue. The third issue, and we'll come back to the name of Justice BV Nagaratna for this. Justice Nagaratna is a part of a 5-judge Collegium of the Supreme Court. She dissented against Justice Pancholi's elevation not once, but twice. His name had first come up in May of 2025, and at the time, she had voted against his elevation to the Supreme Court. She had raised questions that if Justice Pancholi is elevated, that will erode the credibility of the Supreme Court Collegium, and on that count, she had tried to block the elevation of Justice Pancholi. And in fact, the only via media at the time that had been worked out is that Justice Anjaria had been elevated instead of Justice Pancholi, which put the issue on the back burner. But Justice Pancholi's name came up once again in the month of August. And this time, despite Justice BV Nagaratna's dissent, his name went through and he was finally elevated as a Supreme Court judge. That was the third issue. The fourth issue ties in neatly to this third issue, which is Justice BV Nagaratna, as a part of her dissent, reportedly raised issues not just with his elevation, but also during his conduct as the Gujarat High Court judge. She flagged that at the time, in July of 2023, he had been transferred from the Gujarat High Court to the Patna High Court. This, Justice Nagaratna reportedly has said, was not a routine transfer. There was opinion sought from multiple judges that those judges in fact agreed that he needed to be transferred. In fact, what we're given to understand is that she also reportedly raised issues of propriety. And these are issues, questions being raised, again, about the very credibility of the judge himself. And that, in fact, was something that was overlooked despite her reservations, despite her dissent. Justice Pancholi's name went through. So that was the fourth issue. And finally, issue number 5. And this had been flagged by associations such as CJAR, which points out as a part of its release that they point out that the Collegium recommendations, the history has been, especially more recently, is that the reasons, the rationale behind elevating a judge is made public. That is made known to the common man to understand, to build more credibility, to build more transparency for the Supreme Court, for the Supreme Court Collegium. What's important is that at this time, there is no rationale offered by the Supreme Court Collegium as to why Justice Pancholi was preferred, why he was 57th in seniority, why he was elevated ahead of turn, why there were other 3 women judges who were not included, why is it that his name found preference. None of that rationale has been explained. The other aspect that has also been flagged by the CJR is that why is it that the dissent note that was given by Justice Nagaratna has not been made public? Why have those concerns not been shared? Why has there not been more transparency? And that's in fact, again, another key question that has been raised. So there you have it, a number of concerns which dog the coverage, which dog the issue of Justice Pancholi's elevation to the Supreme Court.
Well, thanks so much for tuning in to CNBC TV18. Make sure you follow us and stay updated on all our social media platforms.